People's Business is made possible by our partners, Solar Dynamics, the most efficient energy systems.
A very good night, too, and welcome to this edition of the People's Business Live, where our topic tonight, African-Caribbean trade forging deeper ties, and we're also going to be looking at the upcoming Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum 2022. And to help us do that, we have a panel of esteemed guests: the Chief Executive Officer of Invest Barbados, Kaye Greenidge, the Chief Executive Officer of Export Barbados, Mark Hill, and Business Development Consultant Taahir Bulbulia. We'll be back with the opening comments after this break. Welcome back to the People's Business Live. I'm your presenter, Ryan Broome. Again, our topic tonight, African-Caribbean trade forging deeper ties. Helping us do that, the Chief Executive Officer of Invest Barbados, Kaye Greenidge, the Chief Executive Officer of Export Barbados, Mark Hill, and Business Development Consultant Taahir Bulbulia. And they say ladies first, and I'm going to start with you first, Ms. Greenidge, to give us a sense, before we jump into the Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum 2022, just a sense of where we are in terms of not just Barbados, but Caribbean relations with Africa.
Yes, thank you very much, Ryan, and a good night to all. Good night to all Barbadians. We are trying to strengthen those relations as we continue into the future. We've done a lot of outreaches to various African countries. We've gone to Ghana, we've gone to Kenya, Rwanda. We've signed the memorandum of understanding with Rwanda Development Board and many other African countries, because we do believe that there is great possibilities and great opportunities in forging links with Africa and creating more South-to-South relations between Africa and the Caribbean, not only Barbados. So we are forging on to deepen those ties. A lot of work has been put in place in terms of our relations with Africa. We now have a commercial attaché and a mission office in Ghana. We also have an ambassador in Kenya, and we continue to look to expand those relations on the continent of Africa.
Of our business opportunities and business possibilities with the African continent.
Sorry, I didn't get the beginning of your question.
So sorry, I was the question that was to Mr. Hill. I'm trying to find out, just get his impressions now of the opportunities and possibilities where the African continent is concerned in our business relations.
Well, good night, everyone. Thanks again, Ryan. Yeah, well, as CEO of Invest Barbados was pointing out, we're really looking at strengthening those ties, and we've been doing some very practical things from an export perspective to tighten and strengthen those ties. For example, earlier this year, we would have shipped off a 20-foot container of consolidated produce from Barbados to Ghana, which is about to be distributed across that particular market, and some marketing is going to begin to take place to help promote those particular local brands in the African market, particularly in Ghana. And as you would know, our trade with Ghana and the wider cross Africa is not as strong as we would like. For example, Barbados just exported just around $36,000 in produce to Ghana in 2020. And we're looking around the same digits as far as 2021 is concerned. But coming out of Africa, but I'm speaking specifically to Ghana right now, they would have only shipped something like $3,000 in goods. But what we have seen from some of these relationships that we've been forging, um, we're seeing a lot more exchange taking place. And one of the agencies that are coming in from, again, the continent, the Center for Plant Medicine, we are sponsoring, for example, that they're set up in Ghana, so which have already surpassed what we import from Ghana. So we're seeing an increase in trade, and as the CEO Kaye Bradford highlighted, we're also doing similar relationship building with Rwanda and similar relationship building with Kenya. We had a conference earlier up with Kenya, the Safari Ocean Conference, and that really functioned in a very significant way of creating new opportunities with our ambassadors down there and stuff like that. So we have some local people going off to Africa, meaning off to Kenya specifically, like I think next week, to actually begin to do manufacturing and stuff like that in the African continent. So this is our time, this is our season. It's a historical moment for us where the transatlantic bridge is being rebuilt. But this time the economic focus is not on moving human capital and human labor, but really a significant exchange between Caribbean people and the folks on the continent. And we look forward to deepening that through this Afro-Caribbean forum that's coming up from the 1st to the 3rd of September. Thanks.
Okay, but before we get to the forum itself, I just want to know Mr. Bulbulia's impressions on the opportunities that are available and that the possibilities really with the African continent for business.
Good evening, everyone, and good evening, viewers. First of all, let me thank you all for having us on this program. It's an esteemed pleasure to be here. But CEO Kaye Bradford and CEO Mark Hill summed it up. It's just part of Barbados's overall plan to build their reputation as a global hub for business. And Barbados is part to build their business globally. How can we expand our business ties? How can we expand our trade relations? How can we bring benefit to our people economically, which is ever so important? We're coming out of a COVID-19 pandemic, which struck the whole world and impacted the whole world tremendously. And Barbados must now rebound. This is the time where we must look to new ways and innovative ways and creative ways to get ourselves earning money. And more importantly, our persons in the lower classes, how can they bring themselves up to make a dollar and make a living? We all know the cost of living is becoming very high, but how can we form relationships globally and position ourselves to form partnerships with those global countries, those global entities to bring benefit to our country? CEO Mark put it very, very well. For over 300 years, they had the transatlantic slave trade, and that devastated the Caribbean. So now how can we rewrite history to starting now to use Africa as a hub and the Caribbean as a hub to not do slaves but business? How can we now do a trans business program and initiative to bring benefit to our people, a transatlantic program initiative that can bring benefit to our people and to both of our countries overall? And it's just part of Barbados's plan to build globally.
Okay. And of course, to help us do that, the coming up, we have the Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum 2022. That's on from September 1st to 3rd, 2022 at the Lloyd Erskine Sanford Center, being organized by Afrexim Bank, Export Barbados, and Invest Barbados. And we'll go back to you now, Ms. Greenidge, and just give us an overview of how plans are going for that expo and what some of the things that we can expect.
Thank you very much. So let me just go a little back for a moment. The Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum 22, as we tag it, ATIF 2022, is being held under the theme One People, One Destiny, Uniting and Reimagining Our Future. And how did this come about? At the virtual summit that was held with the heads of states and governments of CARICOM and the African Union, it was agreed that really and truly something like bringing the two areas together, the African continent and the Caribbean, should happen. and that there's need for more interaction and more opportunities between the two areas. And coming out of that, the idea was forged that we should have this summit. And 1 year later, we are having the summit. We are having the Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum being organized by Afrexim Bank, or sister company Export Barbados and Invest Barbados. Our plans are going well. What do we want to get from this forum at 2022? We want to promote interbank relationships, and that includes fostering payment and financial flows. We want to develop the creative and cultural engagements that are that so that they can be commercially viable. You hear CEO Mark just now spoke about the business that we are continuing to build up between Africa and Barbados. We want to make sure those creative and cultural engagements can be commercialized. We want to create a business case for a potential Africa-Caribbean free trade area, promote trade and investment between Africa and the Caribbean, and serve as a platform for market identification. We want to building business partnerships, exchanging trade and market information, doing co-investments together. So those are but a few of the desired outcomes that we have for the forum. I'll tell you, the expected participants of this forum is estimated at 1,000 participants. We expect at least between 600 to 700 persons coming from the African continent, and a further 400 from the Caribbean and Barbados included. The preparations are going very well. As you would imagine, it is fairly stressful, but we we will continue. We have great teams both at Invest Barbados and at Export Barbados who have been going all out to ensure that this forum is a success, and a success not only from bringing those persons to Barbados, but a success from seeing the partnerships and the opportunities that can take off once the forum has been completed. So right now, what I can say to you, although we're saying 1,000 persons, right now we have registered over 1,500 persons for the conference.
Wow. And those will be both virtual and in person?
No, it is actually an in-person event. We expect, obviously, with registrations and so on, you will have about maybe a 70% uptake. So that's why the registration is like that. So we do expect just around those 1,000 persons coming to the conference and participating live. So imagine the other off spins of the conference with having 1,000 people on our shores.
That's true. Okay. To you now again, Mr. Hill, you are the man who would have his pulse on the types of businesses here that would be interested in getting into Africa, and perhaps even utilizing some of the resources that they could get from Africa for their own production purposes here. What does that look? What does that picture look like in terms of the business interest here? The types of businesses that are looking for opportunities in Africa.
Yeah, well, what we're seeing, especially the folks who participated in our first shipment, we're getting ready to send off another shipment to Africa, one to Kenya, and another one back to Ghana as well. What a lot of Barbadians need to recognize is that our industry is primarily what we would call bio-based. So from the rum production to fats and oils, so a lot of our small startups are primarily around biochemistry and what we call the life sciences. So what we're doing is gearing up most of our industries, to be more specific, about 75% of our industries are centered around life sciences, bio-based, bio-trade type activities. So what that lends itself for is for a wide cross-section of businesses to participate and to get into Africa, where it's a lot easier to do business as opposed to just the Latin American space, because we don't speak Spanish, but a lot of these African countries are very affluent in English. So SMEs, for example, we're currently sending off a lot of designers over into Kenya and into Ghana as well with their leather craft and stuff like that, so that they can look at manufacturing opportunities in Africa and then ship from Africa to their export destination while it still remains a Barbados design. So we're bringing some innovative outlooks in terms of how we produce and meet our market demand rather than just simply trying to produce everything here locally. We're encouraging our SMEs to engage in either franchising, licensing, setting up joint ventures, even setting up your enterprise in Africa, but through the banking system, through the banking relationship that we're setting up with the African Exim Bank, being able to repatriate your foreign exchange back into Barbados and benefit and grow the economy in that particular way. So we have all of our rum brands are being pushed into the particular market as well. And we have the cola tonic, which it takes a nut from Africa, create value add here, and then ship it back. So we'll be looking at our industrial processes, looking at the value chain, the supply chain, and making some of the best decisions that allows us to generate as much value as possible within the African market, and to do so in short order. So we expect, again, our medium-sized businesses, when it comes to services, there's a massive opportunity there in terms of service exports. So we're encouraging every Barbadian who wants to move beyond the 300,000 people that we have here, and to see that Africa has close to 3 billion people emerging, one of the fastest growing economies, that this is a market that's there. And as we build these bridges going forward, these transatlantic bridges, you'll be able to get your goods and your services into these markets in a short order.
Okay, thank you. We'll be right back after this break with more of the People's Business Live. Welcome back to the People's Business Live, where tonight we're discussing African-Caribbean trade, forging deeper ties, and we're also looking at the Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum 2022 that's coming up between September 1st and 30th. I understand that we have some callers on the line. Go ahead, caller, with your question or comment. Oh, I'm sorry, caller's gone. Right, so, but you can join with your calls, 228-5562, 228-5563. Just jumping back into the discussion now, Mr. Bulbulia, you as the business development consultant, I think you might represent to maybe some of the younger set. What do you see there in terms of the opportunities for younger business people in Africa?
No, it's absolutely important that in whatever dialogue, whatever engagement, whatever conference forum we have to include the young persons. We have to include the youth. They often say youth are the leaders of tomorrow, but we're the leaders of today for tomorrow. So if we start engaging and having those dialogues now and being a part of the process and the planning process, and we have many young persons on our planning team, and we're engaging more to work at the event and at the forum, and they've been so tremendous coming forward and wanting to participate. And we have to continue utilizing the energy, the vibe, the expertise that young people bring, because they know Barbados and they know what is needed for us to continue moving forward. Utilizing the experience of the CEO like Mark Hill and Kaye to guide us along the way is very, very critical. But more related to the conference and to the forum, there's a youth and SMEs discussion, panel discussion, where we have youth from Africa joining youth from Barbados and the Caribbean to have a very, very important discussion on moving forward. How can we transform our societies? How can we transform our economies? What ideas do we have? Some of our youth, and within Export Barbados, we know of many young persons who have some of the most creative and innovative businesses in the world, but they don't have the capital, they don't have the technical capability to move forward. So how can we work with these young people that need the assistance How can we work to bring them up to a standard? As CEO rightfully said, how can we get them growing beyond the Barbadian market? And we must now see this as important, that the world is our oyster. Our Prime Minister often says we want to build global citizens with Bajan roots. So it does not just people, but our businesses as well. So some of our exciting soap businesses, some of our exciting clothing businesses, you name it. We all have to be a part of this discussion and this dialogue and getting forward. And for our young people especially, you have to take opportunities like these and have conversations with our African counterparts, have conversations with all the persons coming, because what you realize is what's affecting them is also affecting you. What solutions they may have and what solutions is working for them may impact and may benefit us as well. So this is now how we have to form greater alignments. And previous forum would have indicated that if the Caribbean has to be successful, the Caribbean must work together. If the world is to be more successful, we have to work together. So we have to shift and corporations to build our business ties, to build our relations, but more importantly, build our interpersonal capacity and our knowledge between one another. We have a lot to learn. We have a lot to learn from our African, a lot to learn from us, because on the world, Barbados is seen as a major entity in the world. Our global recognition has reached so high now that people are looking to us and want to do business with us and learn from us. I know daily probably CEO Marhill gets calls saying, look, how can we do business with Barbados? But how now do we work through and get persons involved, especially within our younger age, vulnerable groups, more importantly within our entire society. How can they benefit from camps and conferences and
Okay, I'm looking at the topics here for the forum, and I'm seeing we're discussing in the region right now food security and expanding agricultural opportunities in places like Suriname and Guyana. Mr. Hill, I see here improving agricultural productivity and expanding agribusiness opportunities and food security. So we are moving across the continent now in terms of the opportunities there. Is this a sense of getting utilizing the lands there, or how would this particular aspect of it work? Would it be similar to what we're doing with Guyana and Suriname?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like a both-and scenario because, as you know, climate change is having an impact on Africa, droughts and other weather events. And we also know that the COVID-19 has also had impact, and now we've seen the crisis with the war also have an impact. Particularly with grain supply. So one of the things that we're really looking at is how do we collaborate and move and improve each other ecosystem as far as food is concerned. So that may not just be a case of just transacting on commodities, but we're looking more at research and development. We're looking more at food science. How do we step up the value chain? Better food processing systems, better supply chain logistics, cold chain logistics, in terms of how we move goods between each other, so that we can leverage each other's strengths. So similar to what we're doing with Guyana, similar to what we're doing with Suriname, we are also looking to leverage with Africa, but Africa also have that interest with us because Guyana, Suriname can also play a significant role in helping to feed Africa as well. So the scenario with Ukraine and Africa, Ukraine and Russia, that had a significant impact on Africa and their ability to feed themselves. So we want to close this gap through collaboration going forward. Yeah, just one other thing. I just want to correct myself. I made a little error when I said 3 billion is 1.3 billion persons in Africa with an economy of 2.6. So 2.6 trillion. So I just wanted to make that clear for anyone who's listening. 1.3 billion persons, a very young population as well. And food is central. Our Prime Minister says it over and over. Food is the key to us developing as a human society. and therefore we really want out of the conference to strengthen our best in class science, our best in class methodologies and technologies, so that we can begin to transact and share um, science and our agricultural capabilities to really help become more independent and build stronger food security systems.
Just as you were saying that, I was remembering seeing a story of a glut of avocados in I don't remember where in what country it was in Africa, but for things like that, in terms of opportunities that where you may have excesses, that we could utilize here in the region. Because obviously sometimes they don't have enough, well, they have more than enough sometimes in terms of what they produce. And rather than have to throw that away or to create waste, are there opportunities like that would exist as well for farmers here, even vendors, I suppose, to take advantage of things like that? We talk about the transatlantic bridge, but what about that bridge in terms of shipping, the actual ships, or even air freight? What's happening on that end?
Yeah. Well, I was just kind of. Well, go ahead, Kaye. Sorry.
We're working also on that front. We were the natural stop. We were one of the first stops on the trade that was halfway transatlantic trade. And you have to sit and wonder, so what is so difficult about doing it now again, but for a different type of trade? So we're looking into all of those possibilities. The direct shipping from point to point. Airlift, we've actually tried it, we've calculated it, and we have some stats. And even for ATIF, the forum, we have a charter flights coming from Africa into Barbados direct, and therefore you don't have to go all the way around the world to get here. So it is possible, and we're continuing those conversations with airlines, with commercial entities, with the two areas, with shippers, to see what is the best route, what is the most efficient routes, because of course if we're talking about food security, we have to look at efficiency in terms of the route to make sure that when the food gets here, it is still viable in terms of if it is fresh food. But we are looking at all of those. There are so many opportunities and possibilities in that area. One of the other areas we continue to look at, as Mark was speaking just now, is last mile logistics. There's items come into the Caribbean or come into Barbados, value is added, and those are then shipped and exported to the rest of the world. So many opportunities. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, and what I want to add to that is the importance of the value add, particularly food processing. So the fresh food market, whenever we talk about agriculture, we talk about fresh food market, but really and truly, how do we improve our packaging between Barbados and the Caribbean and Africa? How do we create new lines of products that have significant shelf life, but yet is packed with nutrition? These are some of the key things that we will be focusing on as we go forward. But the other thing that we also will be focusing on as well is like our blue economies. Africa is just east of us. Fisheries, there's so much potential there for food security, especially from the standpoint of protein and stuff like that, that we need to deepen and we need to explore. So when Barbadians are thinking about what can I do business in Africa with food and nutrition, everybody just goes straight to farming on the hot sun. But a lot of technologies out there. Africa has the space, Africa has the water, the investment is there, and therefore there's opportunities for everybody to move beyond just the 300,000 market and to set up in this 1.3 billion persons market and to begin to explore as much opportunities as possible.
But what about the affordability factor in terms of the shipping? I mean, we have some affordability issues here in shipping just in the Caribbean region. Is it realistic to expect that perhaps we can achieve affordability still shipping to and from Africa? We know cost is always a big factor, especially now in terms of inflation and everything else. Is that a realistic expectation to ship affordably?
Yeah, well, let me speak to that part because I mean, we've been practically doing it. So what we've done at here at Pelican, for example, we have a consolidated logistics center, the trade center that moves goods between us and Guyana and Suriname, and we're pretty much doing the same thing for Africa as well. So each person don't have to find their own 20-foot, 40-foot container to move their products. By consolidating, we pack together and redistribute the cost is one of the methodologies that we're working on. The other thing that we're working on as well is that we're owning our own containers as well, our own boxes, both cold and normal boxes as well. So that as far as the loose charges and stuff like that is concerned, we're bringing down those deluge charges. We own the container so that we can set the rates and we're only paying for what's on the ship. So we're being innovative about how we address our logistics. But more so, we've already shipped out one container already, and the price point was very, very good for us. I'm not going to mention it here. But in addition to that, as Kaye spoke about chartered flights and stuff like that coming in, you got to appreciate that the plane has two levels. It has the top level where we're moving passengers, but it also has the bottom level where you're moving goods as well. So as we increase the airlift, not only are you moving people, but you're also moving products. But what you want to be moving there is high value products below in the base of the plane going into these markets. So we anticipate that we can fix the logistics problem between us and Africa, as we see as we build back this transatlantic bridge. But this time for trade, this time for economic development for African and Caribbean people, and not just a matter of being part of an economic system that other people benefit from going forward. So the conference is going to drill down into a lot of these things. We expect solutions to come out of this conference, not just talk. We expect some very practical, hands-on things that persons can do, and we anticipate that we can shorten supply chains in this part of the world, so that is a lot better for us. Because you can imagine right now, when we're shipping, we leave Barbados, go to England or to USA to get to Africa. But Africa is just 6 hours away. So, but there are ships that are prepared to do that direct shipment. We just need to consolidate. So Guyana has something to say to Africa. Trinidad has something to say to Africa. St. Vincent, every consolidate in a hub, pack, and ship together. So once we do it together, the Caribbean, and the theme is correct, one people, one destiny, reimagining our future, this is how we're going to go forward together. Right.
That collective approach certainly makes sense. We have to take a quick break now, but just to remind you quickly, we take your calls, 228-5562, 228-5563. We're back with more People's Business Live after this break. Welcome back to the People's Business Live, with the topic tonight, African Caribbean trade forging deeper ties. My panel again, Chief Executive Officer of Invest Barbados, Kaye Greenidge, Chief Executive Officer of Export Barbados, Mark Hill, and Business Development Consultant Taahir Bulbulia. Now, I want to know, for somebody who's watching now, who wants to be a part of the upcoming forum, just give an idea of how they can become involved. Is there a cutoff point? Is there a limit to what the number of people that you're accommodating for the forum?
Well, as I said previously, we're looking at accommodating 1,000 persons. So if persons are interested in either as a participant or exhibitor, there is still areas that you can participate in. Do give us a call either at Invest Barbados or Export Barbados. and let us know your areas of interest. We're also looking for some volunteers to actually work at the conference and at the various different activities and so on. And that can also give you an opportunity to interact with the participants of the conference that is there. So there's a lots of ways to get involved. We have businesses involved, and I mentioned the exhibiting. We want businesses to come and exhibit, so you can actually speak to your business, speak to your profit with the Africans that are here. They too will also have their exhibits to make it exactly what we say it is, a trade and investment conference and forums. So those are some of the ways you can get involved. But do reach out to us at Invest Barbados or at Export Barbados, and we can give you much more information once you tell us your area of interest, and we can see where we can accommodate.
Okay, looking back at the topics again now, and anyone can jump in here. I see mention here of developing special economic zones and industrial parks. And again, the question here is we're talking about doing this in the region, or are we talking about establishing these in Africa as well?
Yeah, I think I will jump in here, right, Kaye? Are you going to take this one, Kaye? Yeah. So for example, you would have heard me mention the life sciences, for example. Um, there there's a drive towards um, improving human well-being, improving human health, it's particularly post COVID-19. And what we see is that this life science market is growing double digit between 15 to 20% per annum. So it makes perfect sense for both Africa and the Caribbean to leverage its scientific capacity to grow in this area as well. So our some of our special economic zones will cover areas such as the life sciences to facilitate new industries, new manufacturers, new pharmaceutical companies, new medical technology companies coming into these spaces, whether it be in Barbados, whether it be in Africa, and serving the world from that platform. In addition to that, new electronic production areas where we have those competencies and those competitive advantages. So it's really about leveraging the strength that each partner brings to the table so that we can go after the globe and grow all of our economies collectively and together. I'll just hand over to Kaye now.
And I just want to remind that, remember the tagline, it is an Afro-Caribbean. And although it is happening in Barbados, we have invited persons from throughout the Caribbean to come to this inaugural forum. And therefore, when you ask the question, is it happening in Africa or is it happening in Barbados? It is happening across to the two areas, the African continent as well as the Caribbean. And therefore, because the truth is, we're 300,000 strong, but we do have a massive amount of persons out there in the wider Caribbean. And as Mark would have said in one of his comments before, collaboration and teamwork is what is really needed. So these zones can be all over, all across, but one shared and common goal.
Okay, and also I see here tourism, and this piques my interest. And I also have a question here for Mr. Bulbulia on this one, because I have a particular interest. I'm always hearing about these different tribes and so on that family lines may have come from this part of Africa or that part of Africa, and I'm particularly interested from the opposite end, or going towards. What's the interest that you found in terms of the tourism side of things, both ways really, because I imagine that there's an interest too in terms of and I see sometimes we have different African delegates, business people, and so on, even religious leaders and so on coming here. What's the interest on both sides of the ocean on this one? And again, Mr. Bulbulia could come in here as well. And I want to know if the younger people are interested as well as finding out their ancestry.
Absolutely, there's a definite interest in the tourism aspect. What Barbados has positioned itself is to look for new source markets, not only the tourism industry, but as Mark and COK said, that we are looking for more business partners and business source markets that we can tap into. And similarly to the tourism end of the spectrum, Barbadians are excited and want to travel and want to look for new places to go to and new destinations. It's no longer the America or the traditional holiday destinations that they want to go to. They want to explore somewhere new. And similarly, on the other end, Barbados reputation, as I said earlier, and as everyone has indicated, that Barbados' reputation on the global stage has grown significantly. So not just doing business, but traveling to Barbados and seeing what Barbados has to offer in every aspect and every element of it. When it comes to our culture is very much aligned with the African culture. Our culture is very much influenced by the African culture as well. So I think this is just going to be a phenomenal experience and week of activities. So, for instance, we have the artisan village where Barbadians will be able to showcase their arts and their culture within, and also share their expertise and knowledge with the African counterparts and learn from one another from a touristic standpoint, from a cultural standpoint, from a business standpoint. So it's just a big melting pot, if I can say that, of activities going on and initiatives going on around this conference and around this forum. And as CEO Mark rightfully said, if we don't want to do the big long talk, we're going to have a lot of on around this conference and around this forum. And as CEO Mark rightfully said, if we don't want to do the big long talk, we're going to have a lot of solutions coming out of it. So one of the main solutions is the creation of these special economic zones. And as you indicated, right, and have flights of transport between Africa and the Caribbean. So not only from a business standpoint, but from a tourism standpoint, how can we have flights readily available for Barbadians, for Caribbean people from Barbados to travel to African countries and vice versa, by creating that hub and that unity and partnership from amongst each other.
Okay, thanks. And at this time, we have a caller on the line. Before I let the others respond, go ahead with your comment or question, caller.
Hi, good evening, and thank you very much for this program, and congratulations to the agencies that are involved in convening this very important trade conference. Going beyond the conference, how do we get Barbadians and Caribbean people generally to be incentivized to build back those links with Africa? And I think it's going to be important going forward that we start to make Barbadians and Caribbean people more aware of what's going on, and that we build back those links to Africa. How do we do more of that going forward?
We have to keep this story going. We have to keep the information flowing. We have to make everyone understand. We have to change the conversation of what people think about Africa and what can be had. I'll tell you, these countries are very innovative. They have a lot of opportunities, and we have to bring that story. Us who are out there and see it, we have to come back and give those important personal testimonials and share those with the rest of the Caribbean. It is only from that persons can say, well, you know what, let me try it. Let me look at this opportunity. Let me see if I can go this way to south instead of the other way to the west or to the west. We have to keep on pushing to have those air linkages that will make it much easier to get persons to the African continent and from Africa to the Caribbean. So those are things that we have to continue to work on. But as Taahir and Mark rightfully said, the conversation does not end at the conference. It is a consistent work that we have to continue to put in, a consistent conversation, a consistent providing opportunities for the Caribbean people and opportunities for the African people, so we can be the catalyst to begin to forge these linkages that are so much needed at this point in time.
To add to that, if I may.
Go ahead.
I think that sounds like my dad, if I'm correct, if I'm hearing correct, but it's an excellent question. But yes, and as I indicated in the beginning, it is my vision, and I'm sure it's everyone's vision, that this conference is the ability to rewrite history and the start of rewriting history to what happened. So that when we look back, say 50, 60 years from now, what took place over the next 2 weeks, what will take place over the next 2 weeks will change what history has written between our relationship between Africa and the Caribbean. So let us use this as a time to rewrite history, and we will be the writers of this part of history.
Yeah. I would just kind of add my 2 cents as well, yeah? The fundamental thing is trust. And how do we build this trust, right? We go through and we have this image of Africa, and that somehow something is going to go foul, something's going to go wrong. But the partner that we have at the table with this particular conference, the African Exim Bank, this is a world class bank, and it is the product of the African Union that coming together, working together, and this bank functions professionally. It functions at the highest global level with the highest global standards, like any other British bank, like any other American bank, and fundamentally, it's really about us having trust in the products and the services that we create as African people, Afro-Caribbean people. I like the word Afro-Caribbean. So who's at the table when you look at not just the speakers, but you look at the supporters. The African Exim Bank there at the table is a bank with significant credibility, and at the core, this is what makes trade possible. Because trade cannot happen without capital. Trade cannot happen without the institutional framework to move and allow transactions to take place. So having this bank at the center of this conference, and in fact, the main sponsor, we are privileged as Caribbean people to have this level of discourse with such a phenomenal institution. And to have the confidence that the president of the African Exim Bank have in this forum is exemplary. And I want to encourage Barbadians that we have just as strong institutions coming out of Africa, institutional framework. We have just a strong regulatory framework. And these are the things that help build confidence. These are the things that help mitigate against risk. And therefore, the conference is going to help strengthen those building blocks as we go forward so that real significant trade can take place in a safe, credible way. We just came back from Rwanda, myself and Kaye, and let me tell you something. The place is safe. The infrastructural framework is beyond imagination, on par with any international space, Switzerland, Brussels, any place at all. Okay. So we have to be confident that we can be just as professional as anybody else. Thank you very much.
All right, we have to take hold that thought for the final break. We running out of times. We take this final commercial break. We're back with the last lap of the People's Business Live right after this break. Welcome back to the People's Business Live, where we're in the home stretch of the topic African-Caribbean trade, forging deeper ties. And during the break, we had a question here. Caller is asking about quality assurance. How will product quality be validated for those goods coming from Africa and vice versa? This is the point where we usually have final comments. I don't know if one of you want to or can incorporate that into your final comments. And obviously, you're going to reflect on the upcoming forum as well, and some remarks about how people can get involved again there. Anyone wants to take a jump at that one?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. The remarkable thing is that China every day, US every day, Switzerland every day is taking in African products. and they're meeting their sanitary and fight to sanitary standards. And China takes in African um, cocoa butter, cocoa, and produce chocolates and ship them back to us. They take in their for beauty products as well, and ship it to us. And so we buy the finished goods, right? Most of the time. But how could Africa products get into USA, get into England, get into China, but it can't get into the Caribbean space because, as far as we're concerned, the quality is not there. There is a global standards, ISO standards, and companies across Africa have to meet those standards to get into global markets. And what I would say is that the sanitary standards are there, and our system allows for those analysis, and once those products meet those standards, it is good to come into the particular market within the Caribbean. So again, about trust, we got to trust the systems that are there. Now, earlier I spoke about the banking system. Now we have to trust the standards systems of standards. We have BNSI that does a fantastic job. We have Ministry of Agriculture that does a fantastic job. We have the Government Analytical Services that does a fantastic job. So the system is there, but trust. How do we build trust? Trust the systems that are in place, the ISO 9000s and stuff like that. But again, I want to reiterate, these products from Ghana, Kenya, their teas, their coffees, you buy them under the new brands Nestle and under Taifu and all these different brands, but a lot of these products come from Africa. So it's really about how to develop trust and begin to build new brands and become confident with the brands that build from the same produce that come from Africa. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Bulbulia, bring you in here now for your final remarks, so I can let the CEO of Invest Barbados, Ms. Greenidge, have the final say as the lady among us, the final words about the forum. So your turn, sir.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having us. It's absolutely a pleasure to be here and to have this conversation. We want all Barbadians, all Caribbean people to log in, see what we have to offer, see the opportunities that are out there. Don't just think this 166 square miles. We have to start thinking. We have to start transforming our mindset and the way in which we operate and the way in which we think to meet the demands of the 2022 world. We can no longer just wait on people to give us handouts. We have to go out there and search and find opportunities and find new markets and find new sources for us to tap into. And with that, I'm here at Kensington Oval, and it's just amazing to think of the partnership that's been formed between Africa and the Caribbean at Greenidge, and he is just looking at the Greenidge and he is stand. So I'm definitely looking forward. As CEO Mark always says, he said we're like a batting partnership with Invest Barbados. So it's just a pleasure that we can expand these global ties, and we have to really look to tap into new markets and continue building Barbados as a global entity. We are 55, 56 years independent republic last year. Now is our time for takeoff. We're a record stage. We've developed on the world stage. Now we must take off on the world stage, and this is the time we're at, and we must bring everyone along on this journey. So with that, thank you so very much, and I hope West Indies win tonight.
Thank you. I've been following here online myself, looking at the squirrel, but anyhow, Ms. Greenidge, back to the topic I had. Your final remarks and encouragements to people to be part of this forum.
I forgot that we can do these forums at any place, and I actually didn't go to cricket because I have people's business. But if I knew that, Taahir, I would have been down there next to you. But just to circle back a little bit into what Mark was talking about standards, I just want to let the caller know and everybody know, Africa countries actually have their own FBAs. So they have to subscribe to the standards in terms of manufacturing and so on for like the rest of the world. And these products are tested and cannot be placed out there in the market or shipped out or exported from the countries unless they meet those standards of their FBAs. They have innovation. as Mark kept saying, it's about trust. And it's time that we forge those relationships and take advantage of the many opportunities that there are on the African continent and also give them the opportunities that there are in the Caribbean. Natural linkages. Natural linkages is what we need to be able to create and to see the opportunities in those natural linkages. I just want to say this is an inaugural event. This is a very exciting time. We here from Invest Barbados and Export Barbados are happy and excited to be the ones to be the ones putting on this forum and to bring these opportunities to the Caribbean and to Barbados. It is going to be a very successful 3 days of talks, collaborations, partnerships being forged, and we encourage everyone in Barbados to get involved somehow, volunteer, ask questions. We can provide you with other material. We can probably provide you with opportunities, even though you may not be at the conference. We need to know the areas that you are interested in. So, as the theme says, one people, one destiny, and that is what we're looking to get. Reunite and reimagine our future with the African continent.
Just remind them quickly how they can get in contact with you.
Again, you can contact us through Invest Barbados, which is www.investbarbados.org, or PBS is 626-2000. You can ask for myself, Kaye Greenidge, Sandra Payne, anyone, even the receptionist can give you information about ATIF. We're all involved, and I'll leave Mark to tell you his website, his PBS, but we're all involved.
Go quickly, sir.
Yeah, you can reach us at exportbarbados.bb. You can go on there and exportbarbados.org. Sorry, that's the website. You can go on there and that will give you your linkages. Or you can call us at 427-5350, and our receptionist will push you through to either Marina Tate or through to Bulbulia or through to Dario Pearl, some of the folks who are doing some serious heavy lifting for this conference. So we're doubling down a few days out, tightening everything up so we can deliver a world-class event.
Thanks so
And
much,
on
and thanks
social
to
media,
all. Go ahead, go
social
ahead.
media, the younger group, just quickly, younger group at Sport Barbados BIDC on social media.
Okay. All right, well said. And on that note, I want to thank my panel of esteemed guests, the Chief Executive Officer of Invest Barbados, Kaye Greenidge, CEO again of Export Barbados, Mark Hill, and Business Development Consultant Taahir Bulbulia. We were talking about African-Caribbean trade forging deeper ties, and of course the Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum 2022, which comes off September 1st to 3rd, 2022 at the Lloyd Erskine Sandyford Center. I'm Ryan Broome. I have been your presenter. Thanks again to my guests. Do have a good night.